battle of Demi Lovato, drugs, identity, and fame. Demi Lovato rose to stardom as a Disney darling, talented, charismatic, and seemingly unstoppable. But behind the bright lights was a young woman facing extraordinary pressure, private pain, and a struggle for identity that nearly cost her everything. From child fame to international superstardom, Demi's story is not just about music or movies, it's about addiction, trauma, resilience, and the search for self in an industry built on one child star. Growing pain. Demi Lovato's career began almost as soon as she could walk and talk. At just 7 years old, she landed a role on Barney and Friends, sharing the screen with another future star, Selena Gomez. Even at that young age, Demi stood out. She was charismatic, musically gifted, and had a spark that casting directors couldn't ignore. By the time she was 15, Demi had secured the lead role in Camp Rock, a Disney Channel original movie that would catapult her into global fame almost overnight. Starring alongside the Jonas Brothers, Demi wasn't just acting, she was singing, headlining tours, and building a brand as Disney's next teen idol. Her debut album followed quickly, and her fanbase exploded. To millions of young viewers, she was an icon of empowerment, smiling, confident, and seemingly unstoppable. But while the world saw a success story, the reality was much more complex. Behind the scenes, Demi was already battling intense emotional and psychological pressures. She endured bullying both in school and online, leading to deep insecurities about her body and self-worth. The demands of stardom at such a young age were crushing. Constant scrutiny, long workdays, and the expectation to be a flawless role model created a toxic environment, one where mistakes weren't allowed, and imperfections had to be hidden. The pressure to be picture perfect became a silent burden. And over time, it laid the foundation for a darker path, marked by addiction, self-doubt, and the deep need to escape the image she felt forced to maintain. 2. A mask behind the music. As Demi Lovato's music career soared, her personal struggles intensified. With each new album, she opened a window into her emotional world, her lyrics rich with vulnerability, heartbreak, and quiet cries for help. Songs like Skyscraper and Warrior resonated deeply with fans, not just for their power, but for the pain they hinted at. What the public didn't fully grasp at the time was just how real that pain was. Behind the curtain of fame and fan adoration, Demi was battling eating disorders, self-harm, anxiety, and severe depression. The relentless demands of touring, recording, and media appearances left little time for rest, let alone healing. She was expected to maintain a squeaky clean image, smile for the cameras, and be a role model, while silently unraveling. In interviews years later, Demi revealed that she had started using drugs and alcohol to numb the pressure, to silence the inner chaos that fame had only intensified. She described it as self-medicating, a desperate attempt to gain control in a life that no longer felt like her own. At just 18 years old, she entered rehab for the first time following a physical altercation with a backup dancer, a moment that made headlines and hinted at the instability behind the scenes. The world watched with both concern and curiosity as Demi began what would be the first of several attempts to recover, not just from addiction, but from the impossible expectations placed on her as a teen star turned global celebrity. This wasn't a one-time fall from grace. It marked the beginning of a long, complicated battle with sobriety, mental health, and self-acceptance, one that would play out publicly, under the harsh light of fame. 3. The 2018 overdose. A near-death reckoning on July 24, 2018, the world was stunned when news broke that Demi Lovato had overdosed on opioids laced with fentanyl. She suffered multiple strokes, brain damage, and nearly died. The overdose shattered the illusion that she was doing better. It revealed just how deep her struggle had gone, and how close she had come to becoming another Hollywood tragedy. Later, in her docuseries Dancing with the Devil, Demi shared intimate details of that night and the trauma that followed. It was raw, painful, and brutally honest. 4. Identity, sobriety, and redefinition. Following her overdose, Demi began the long road to recovery, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. She spoke openly about the complexity of sobriety, admitting that healing isn't linear. During this time, Demi also explored her identity more openly. In 2021, she came out as non-binary and adopted they/them pronouns, later embracing she/her again as part of her fluid identity. This public reckoning with gender, mental health, and trauma was both inspiring and controversial, but it marked a turning point in her journey toward authenticity. 5. Hollywood's role in her struggles. Demi has not shied away from criticizing the entertainment industry. She's called out toxic beauty standards, exploitative management, and the silence around child star trauma. Like many before her, Demi was shaped, and nearly broken, by a system that often values profit over people. Her story has become a rallying cry for reform in how the industry treats young talent, mental illness, and addiction. From a young age, Demi was thrust into the spotlight, first as a child actor on Barney and Friends, then as a Disney Channel star. Behind the scenes, though, she was already grappling with deep emotional wounds, eating disorders, substance abuse, and self-harm, all while being held to impossible standards of perfection. "I was smiling on red carpets, while secretly crying myself to sleep," she later revealed in interviews. As her fame grew, so did the pressure. Labels, managers, and executives built careers on her success, but too often ignored the warning signs of burnout and breakdown. She was overworked, undersupported, and constantly scrutinized. At times, her team even restricted her access to food and controlled her every move, all in the name of image. Her battles with addiction became public in 2010, leading to rehab and a years-long cycle of relapse, recovery, and painful honesty. The breaking point came in 2018, when a near-fatal overdose sent shockwaves through the industry and her fan base. It was a moment of reckoning, not just for Demi, but for how society treats people in pain. Yet instead of hiding, she spoke out. Through documentaries like Dancing with the Devil and her music, Demi pulled back the curtain on her darkest moments. She spoke not as a celebrity, but as a survivor, someone who had been failed by a system that profits from talent, then discards it when it struggles. "I'm not going to sugarcoat anything anymore," she said. "If it's uncomfortable for people to hear, maybe they should ask why that is." Her voice has since become one of the most authentic and unflinching in the entertainment world, advocating for mental health awareness, LGBTQ+ rights, body positivity, and the importance of boundaries and self-compassion.